Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I'm here with my not my new friend, my longtime friend, Carolyn Allen. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Freddie. It's so great to be here.
Well, I'll start out to say we were gonna pivot and we were gonna do this downtown Austin location, and I said, you know what? I want to film in the house because there's literally magic here, and I'll tell you this quick story that last night we heard this thud in the house, and a board, you can't see it on camera, fell off the ceiling. And then we went downstairs, and directly under in the room, not totally lined up, a grate came off. And I was like, there's an energetic target in the middle of this space right.
See, they had to open it so I could come.
Yeah. Something. Some.
I'm just joking.
No, I don't. I make space for all of that.
Yeah.
Ever unfolding.
No, it's not me. It's the beam of minerals. Beam minerals.
Yeah. Can we talk about why are you called the Mineral Geek?
Well, I didn't make it up. People actually just started calling me that because I couldn't stop talking about how minerals had changed my life. So soon people were like, oh, yeah, that mineral geek. Oh, yeah, she's that mineral geek. And then I heard about it through the grapevine.
Yeah. And what was the spark? What was the little thread of the storyline that started your curiosity?
You know, what's happened for me was I was in a corporate career. I was in high tech, and I burned out of that, completely burned out. And I'd had mold exposure and autoimmune and gluten intolerant for many, many years. And all of those things over a long period of time built into a host of symptoms that I struggled with. And then the stress of my corporate career just tanked my adrenals. Everything was a mess. So, and right about the time that I tanked, I met my business partner, Dan Howard, and he introduced me to these minerals, these liquid minerals. And without changing anything else, I just took that little cup of liquid every day. And over the space of like 8 or 9 months, all of my symptoms, I mean, even with doctor's tests, and I had really bad problems with my mouth, and everything completely resolved after years of trying to heal it. Gut healed, adrenals came up, sinus infections went away. I stopped getting sick like at all these things. And I was just left with this incredible curiosity about, after going to so many practitioners and taking so many pills and prescriptions and you name it, trying to heal all my symptoms one by one, how could that little cup of liquid had made such a difference in a relatively short period of time?
Yeah.
And so I ended up researching, I took a several-year deep dive into the science behind the body and how minerals work and what minerals are and all of this stuff. And then I started to want to tell people.
Yeah, as you do. I could interview you for 8 hours. I could go into, I'm so curious when people tell me, like, you know, what did you see visually that was the crack in the door that you're like, I want to go there and I want to explore. I was walking outside today and talking about an episode I did last week to the social media channels. And, you know, a lot of times when I hear people say disease or a malady, it's like, you know, was the label MS? Was it IBS? Was it Crohn's? And then the second question down is that definition your set reality, or is that a constellation somebody told you to look for? Because it's like that story with Orion's belt. It's like, well, guys just made up a story about those stars because they wanted assistance, they needed guidance. And so we do that a lot of times with disease. As you had this experience with minerals and things started to unfold, were you curious as to why that symptomology was letting go in a unique order?
You know, at that point, I really didn't know that much about my body. Even though I had been a dancer and an athlete, but I really had never been taught about my physiology. So I was kind of probably like most people are with their cars, like something's going wrong, go to the mechanic because they're the expert.
Yeah.
So I don't, certainly many practitioners had named what was wrong with me, but not a single one had ever mentioned that I might be mineral deficient.
Mm-hmm.
Not a one.
Yeah.
As I went into looking at, like, studying and researching, there's a few ahas that came to me that just changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the things that really lit me up. And the first was that if you think about your body, I mean, we think about our body and we look through a doctor's lens and we see a disease, a diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
right? But this body is completely made of cells, single cells. And all of those cells work together in this miraculous way as an ecosystem, a natural ecosystem, just like the forest outside.
Mm-hmm.
It all works together, and my heart cells know their heart cells, and my, finger cells know their finger cells, on and on. So that was my first moment, and I remember going, well, how many are there? And through study finding that there's like 37 to 150 trillion, not billion, trillion cells in an adult human. And that alone made me start to, like, I felt like I was walking around the circle and looking from a new perspective.
Yeah.
And then I kept going deeper and looking inside the cells at the mitochondria.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I just went like, oh my gosh, like these little powerhouses generate almost all the energy in the body. And they're fueled by two things, minerals and amino acids. That's their fuel. Now the body makes a lot of amino acids, it makes no minerals. They all have to come from the outside. Just that alone made me go, that little liquid cup of minerals was adding fuel.
Yeah. Can we define mineral from, so I would, again, for people listening to this, you might see, you got a mineral, you've got somebody who say, well, it's a nutrient, or there's a vitamin, an amino acid. What's a mineral defined as?
Yeah. Well, this is another one of my aha moments. Okay. So, recently I've been asking people, can you name 5 minerals? And most people cannot name 5 minerals because we've never been taught about minerals. But think about it. Think about it this way. Everything that is structural, everything in the universe that is structural is minerals. And there are a lot of minerals. Just in our little cup of liquid, there's 70 plus minerals.
Yeah.
Okay. And some we consider beneficial and some we consider harmful. And usually, just to be clear, the minerals that we consider harmful, they're only harmful when they're in concentrations. And in fact, even a beneficial mineral, when it's in concentration, is considered toxic. So all of the structure in my body is made of minerals. If we took all the water out, I'd be a little pile of minerals, maybe with some amino acids mixed in.
Yeah.
And so when a baby grows in the mother's belly, it takes all the minerals from the mother's body to create its structure. And when a plant grows in the soil, it takes minerals from the soil to create its structure. So, and, I could just start naming minerals. And, there's all of the minerals that we think of as electrolytes. There's potassium and magnesium and calcium and sodium. Those are kind of the main 4 that people use as electrolytes. But then there's things that people have never heard of that you absolutely have to have, like vanadium, molybdenum. You need a lot of boron, but have you ever heard of boron? I mean, you probably have. Of course you have. But most people, we've never been taught. We know about our vitamins, our B vitamins and vitamin D and vitamin C. We know about those, but you can actually live for a very long time without vitamins, but without minerals, without certain minerals, you will perish in a few hours.
Yeah.
So they're both the substrate of the entire universe, minerals are, and they are also the fuel for all cellular life on the planet.
Yeah. And so to be clear, internally, there's no minerals that I synthesize. Minerals are something other than self that I need from outside world. Is that
correct? So
okay?
your body makes a lot of amino acids. All of the minerals that you take in have to come in from food, water, and supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Now, out in nature, the plant grows and it takes the minerals from the soil, and then at some point it dies and it decomposes, and all of those minerals go back into the soil
Mm-hmm.
where they're available for the next plants to grow. And that's the sustainable loop that nature relies on.
That's Lion King.
Exactly.
Circle of Life, yeah.
Exactly.
That was our musical moment. We could have thrown it.
Dang it, could you sing it? No.
I like to clarify that for people because, you know, we I think within this space specifically, the number one reflection I get is people are overwhelmed.
Yes.
And so we've all felt something on our body, an indicator, my tennis elbow won't go away, or it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, or I went 5 times last night. I got up and went to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we start to use Dr. Google and we look for symptoms. We'll usually find a really clever company who's wonderful at marketing exactly what you're experiencing at 2 a.m. And you go right to a landing page and there you go. There's your thing for your thing. With this state of like supplementation and what do I take and what do I do? What are the essentials?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one thing I want to say about that whole schism of the pill for every ill is that then everybody has what the supplement graveyard at home, right?
Yeah.
The cupboards filled with bottles of stuff that you tried and you didn't notice a difference. And there's actually really good reasons for that, which maybe we'll have time to go into. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing about minerals. Everybody wants to know, well, what minerals should I be taking? And here's what I want you to understand is that you can't just go to the mineral aisle at your health food store and start picking single pill bottles off of the wall and putting them in your cart, because minerals don't work like that. And this is the biggest problem that we have is we've got lots of people using magnesium for sleep or magnesium for elimination, or they're taking salt-based electrolytes. They're taking large concentrations, what your ecosystem recognizes as large concentrations, and they're putting them in their bodies every day, and they're just throwing the ecosystem out of balance. Mm-hmm. So instead, see, this is the reason I'm a mineral geek, because I couldn't stop talking about this, mm-hmm. which is, guess what? Minerals have been needing to get into cells since the beginning of time, and nature created a solution, a technology, and that's what these humic and fulvic molecules represent. Mm. They represent all of the minerals your body needs in the natural ratios that your body utilizes, already formulated by nature in those natural ratios, plus the delivery system for those minerals into the cells where your mitochondria can access them. Yeah. Like here we spent, scientists develop recommended daily allowances, mm-hmm. based on some lab studies and things that said, you and I and all the other people have the same need, this certain amount per day, and it's completely ludicrous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you think about it, if environment is informing biology, like my home environment, yours, from Kathy across the street in a very toxic relationship, struggling paycheck to paycheck, we're going to have different needs. Yeah.
And lifestyle and genetics, epigenetics,
all of it,
health history,
all of it,
the way you eat, everything affects it.
Yeah.
And it's dynamic moment to moment. If you exercise 5 times a week intensely, or there's an older woman who's can't physically move much, completely different needs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten to the point where, I can in good conscience, I can mention things that I'm trying or I'm exploring. And then when people ask, they're like, is it good for? I'm like, I know you hate this answer, but it depends. There's a few. Now, I will say in the creation, literally, I told you this, I wrote this 100-page manual where I'm like, how do I craft a module for food that serves the public? And inviting everybody in, I mean, really, at the end of the day, educate, empower, inspire.
Mm-hmm.
I can't prescribe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say, here's principles around food,
Mm-hmm.
smelling food to
Mm-hmm.
initiate the digestive enzymes, the cascade of, neurotransmitters that say it's time to release stomach acid. We can do those things.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. When we get into something like, a mineral that's in a perfect delivery form and balanced the way the body needs, did you create this in a lab with Beam, or did you source it from somewhere in which it was in that form?
Yeah. So these come from ancient decomposed rainforests, 65 million year old decomposed rainforests. So 65 million years ago, there's lots of rainforests around the earth. A meteor hit the earth, hit the Yucatan, killed 75% of all life on earth in a few hours. Cataclysmic event. And all these rainforests around the earth died and decomposed. And they deposited substances that are called humic substances. And there's shilajit in the Himalayas, there's peat in the British Isles, in the Amazon basin area, South America, they have something called terra preta. And in the North America, we have some materials. One is called humate and another is called leonardate. There's a few other names. They're black crystalline substances. Shilajit's kind of a pasty substance.
Yeah.
Peat is like a, I don't know, it's, you've seen peat moss, but that's different. It's actually more compressed. So peat is different than peat moss. But anyway, the point being that these substances in the decomposition, the breaking down of freshwater plants, not saltwater, freshwater plants, there's a microbial process that results in this substance called humic. And fulvic, which is the other molecule, actually comes out of humic. And they end up being two separate molecules in water, in aqueous solutions. So, and so they're completely natural. This is not lab formulated. This is extracted using a non-chemical process from using just water and some other secret things to extract the molecule out of this the dry substance so that it's suspended in this liquid and bound to the water molecule so that it never comes out of suspension.
Yeah.
So they're completely natural. This is why I say this is a technology designed by nature for natural ecosystems.
Yeah. So I'm imagining this 65 million year timeline. This is embedded within the soil around the world. And for a period of time, I guess, this would have fueled even modern day farming.
Well, and anywhere that freshwater plants decompose, you have humic being created. So if you see a pond and the water's brown, that's probably humic in the water.
Can we just bookmark and just not jump through? You said humic and fulvic, they're different. Can we just touch on how they're different? You said one comes from the other?
Yeah. So humic is a very large molecule. It's much larger than a cell. In your body, it tends to hang out in the bloodstream. And it's people who are the experts, world-renowned experts, they call it the God molecule because it's unlike any other molecule that they've ever found. It has different areas on its surface that have different polarities, so it can actually collect molecules of positive or negative charge. And its surface is incredibly porous and it has a huge surface area. Like one molecule could have the size of a football field. Like it's in terms of surface area, it's incredible, and it's one of the strongest electrolyte molecules. So it travels through your bloodstream and it gathers biowaste, toxins, heavy metals, nanoplastics, senescent cells, glyphosate, endotoxins, and it sequesters that stuff. I call it Mother Nature's janitor.
Yeah.
So it works in your body. They use it on toxic waste sites. So it works in soils. It just works. And that's kind of that's the first thing I like people to think about. Like, nature's been solving ecosystem problems for millennia. And here is one of its main tools for full system detox. So this molecule gets so heavy, at a certain point, it falls out of solution in your body, and then it leaves your body through all of any detox channel that's open, including tears, snot, sweat, saliva, skin, of course, urine and feces.
Yeah.
So it's not like other detox protocols where you have to have a particular pathway open. It uses any one. And that's why it's so effective and also gentle.
That's the humic.
Yes, that's humic.
Great.
Now the fulvic, there's one other thing that humic does that is really important to recognize. So it also interacts with the cell wall, and it creates, like, just whenever it hits a cell, it interacts with the proteins in the cell wall, and it increases cell wall permeability. So it's like if you're in a room right now and there's one door and one window, so much air or people or whatever can go in and out. But if you have 5 doors and 5 windows, a lot more can go in and out, and it makes the whole system more efficient. So that's one of the most important. It supports nutrient uptake into the cells because it increases cell wall permeability. I hope that's not too technical for people who are like,
that's the cell needs to dump garbage. It needs to eat.
Exactly.
And there's channels in and out of the cell, these ion channels, and we got this cell membrane that has a charge and voltage. And then, from my understanding, the humic is this vast football field with all these different polarities. Because it has that charge, it can pick up a molecule of mercury and really form this strong covalent bond where it's not going to let go.
It's exactly right. And that's what's really important, because people ask, if you read a certificate of analysis of humic, you will find heavy metals listed. Now, this is the interesting thing, and it's literally being studied around the world for this reason. Those heavy metals that are associated with that molecule do not come free. They will not get deposited into your system. In fact, it literally is like a vacuum cleaner without a negative, a way to discharge.
Yeah.
So it creates these bonds, covalent bonds. So those heavy metal molecules, the way I describe it is they have no valence. They have no ability to become free floating.
Yeah.
So and there's many studies showing lowering. In fact, the first time that we had a doctor call us, and it was when our company was very young, and I was like, okay. And it's a woman, a world-renowned heavy metal specialist, a toxicity specialist. And she told me that our product, the humic, the microboost, was the first thing she's ever used that's been able to move the dial on mercury toxicity in her patients. And she was just over the moon excited. She's like, tell me about it. How does it work? So then I was able to explain to her. Okay, so do you want to talk about fulvic or?
Yeah, let's just give me the download on fulvic. Okay. I liked we say that I know this audience, so many people that have worked in the world they've worked with the medicine of Lyme and autoimmune and mold. So binders, we've talked about it on at least 10 shows.
Yes.
So I think, and we've never done a deep dive.
Yeah.
So give me how is fulvic different in its properties in that component?
So the main thing about humic is humic leaves the body. It is the one that clears ecosystems of their toxicity. Okay. Yep. However, some of that toxicity exists in the cells, and the humic is too large to go inside the cell. So you have fulvic. Now, just so we're clear, fulvic actually, I kind of describe it as being birthed out of humic. So you take the humic molecule, we take it through a process, and we're able to extract the fulvic out of the humic. Now, the fulvic molecule is very, very, very small, much, much smaller than a cell. Now, the interesting thing is all of your cells recognize fulvic as a beneficial substance. So most things that hit the cell wall require a certain receptor, and it's like a gate. right? Because it's keeping non-beneficial things out. Any channel that opens in your cell, the fulvic goes straight through. So it's a flavonoid, but it's one of the most powerful flavonoids. It can carry 60 times its weight of minerals and nutrients through the cell wall. Now it does what no other molecule on Earth can do. No other molecule. And they're like, they don't, when you study it, you get into quantum mechanics. It changes its polarity. So like if you had a magnet and you have like things that are attached because of the magnet, you were able to release that magnet, those things, they fall off inside the cell. So it delivers the nutrients and the minerals into the cell. It's a delivery system.
So cool.
Isn't it so cool? So literally, so then now it's in a different polarity. It travels around in the cell and it picks up biowaste and toxins and heavy metals, glyphosate, not spike proteins, they wouldn't be in the cell, but viral detritus, just general waste. It clings to it. Channel opens in the cell, it carries it out. Now, we could get into the science of why it goes back and forth, and that's called diffusion, which is basically because in water, aqueous solutions, elements like to disperse evenly. So it will move in or out depending. Okay, so it takes these things out, and then it changes its polarity again, and it drops those things off in the bloodstream. Where humic now.
Humic's waiting.
Exactly, where humic is waiting. Do you see, like, I literally get so excited, Freddie. I'm like, can you believe this? So, it's mind-blowing. It's, for me, I really, this is why I'm a mineral geek.
I mean, do you think there's a day where people like roll up to Starbucks and they're like, I want a humic and fulvic tea?
That's my dream. No, seriously.
I mean, right?
I totally think at some point, once people recognize the capacity of humic and fulvic, they're going to start going, well, gee, I'm been feeling kind of low. I'm going to have a quick shot of fulvic, which is going to quickly provide nutrient delivery into my cells so that my mitochondria can generate more energy and I feel energized, right? Within minutes. Here's an example. We go to bike races and the guys, they go out 50 miles to the aid station. At the aid station, they stop in and we're at the aid station and there's salt-based electrolytes. And they know they don't want to take those because they're going to trash their stomach and they're going to end up with diarrhea. It's going to be a problem. But they're like, okay, sometimes they go for the pickle juice because that's less disturbing to their gut. But they see us and they're like, well, what do you guys have? And they have a shot of our electrolytes. And literally like 30 to 45 seconds later, they're like, whoa, what just happened? They're like, could I just be feeling that? And we're like, yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
So it's needed, and again, the education is not in existence. And when we're talking about like, well, what does the body need? These things should be, my dream is to see these things in a grade school, high school class, within a textbook. Yeah. That'd be so fun.
I've been thinking about it because I'm in the process of writing a book. And I thought, back when I was a kid, they started with the food pyramid, in school, but they never taught us. And then they started with vitamins, you need your vitamins and, but nobody, I don't care if you're like a PhD. Even scientists who study the body don't know. They never studied minerals and how they actually work in the body. There's this incredible mandala that I have that shows all of the relationships between the 17 to 22 minerals that we know are needed for physiological requirements. And it's so complex. It's an incredibly complex algorithm. There's no way a doctor or a really smart practitioner or you as somebody who's a biohacker or whatever would be able to solve that. But nature already solved it.
Yeah. I have a question for you, and we'll get in the weeds here a little bit. Sometimes sometimes I've been to practitioners specifically in functional medicine space, or,
Mm-hmm.
in the world of like entrepreneurial wellness, and people will want you to test minerals. They'll do a HTMA,
Mm-hmm.
hair test mineral analysis. We've definitely had 2 companies on to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then normally it's a very targeted, lengthy process to quote unquote remineralize the tissues, where you're going to do phosphorus, cal, magnesium, whatever. I don't That's not my area of expertise. However, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, and you might have 6 or 7 bottles where I'm going to take 2 in the morning, 1 after lunch, 3, and I'm going to do for the next 6 months. Then I retest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process to remineralize. Is in your experience and your understanding of the research, is that needed to help with minerals and remineralize when people are way off balance?
Yeah. Well, I certainly, first of all, I do want to respect the practitioners out there who are doing that, and God love them, because
Yeah.
they're up against such a complex algorithm that and the thing that you have to recognize is, let's say you get a hair tissue mineral analysis, and we should talk about another test that's actually better.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that you have maybe some imbalances, and you have a depletion, okay, in a particular mineral.
Or a hidden toxicity that's
Or
possible.
yeah, you have some heavy
Right.
metals, okay. Now, here's the thing that you have to understand is that they all these minerals work together. So I work with some practitioners who've been looking at mineral analysis of people's tissues, not blood, but tissues. That's what you need to test, for years. And they can look at somebody's, um, test results and go, oh, they have parasites. Oh, see how this mercury is high? This is why their iron is low. Because, and I don't know if it's mercury and iron, so please forgive me.
Sure.
I'm more about the whole conceptual framework. I let the experts be the experts about those specific minerals and their relationships.
Yeah.
Because once I started studying it, I realized it's so complex that I need to be the bringer of this just the basic foundation of people understanding that they all work together. So what I say to people is this: if you have a deep depletion in a particular mineral, you've done a test, it is a good idea to try and find a way to bring that level up in a short period of time. However, you do have to ask yourself, why is it low? Okay. Yeah. The other thing you have to recognize is that minerals work in balance. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. They have to be in balance. So let's say you have low potassium, but your sodium is here. Now you add some potassium and you might actually create a not good situation.
Yeah.
So it's very, very complex, and it's very, very dynamic. It changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I say is that we are in a process of learning about minerals and how we can actually create balance. But the first thing to recognize is minerals are ecosystem tools. So if you take a large concentration, here's an example. This is a really good example. So a trainer came to me of elite triathletes in the aging quadrant, and he said, what's going on with my athletes? They're having osteopenia and osteoporosis. And I said, well, they've probably been taking a lot of magnesium and potassium for a long period of time, like large amounts. He's like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, if you think about this ecosystem of your gut, and you're putting these relatively large amounts, and for them, quite a lot for their performance enhancement, and the body says, I've got a huge amount of magnesium, let's say. I need to balance it with phosphorus and calcium, because they have a triumvirate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so where does it get those? When you do it day in and day out for years, it's taking it from your bones.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what happens when we take ecosystem tools and we try to use them as, things like that.
Yeah.
Becomes an earthquake, a forest fire, a tsunami. These are not good things in ecosystems. So we have to shift our whole paradigm of thinking. And I know from our recent chat, that's where you're also going. Like, rather than filling myself with all these pills, I need to stop and go, okay, wait, if I'm overweight, well, that's an ecosystem issue. Oh, I have SIBO. Oh, that's an ecosystem issue. Oh, I have sinus infections. That's an ecosystem issue. Are there ways that I can slowly, gently, lovingly find ecosystem tools that can bring my ecosystem back into balance?
Yeah.
And I get that everyone wants to feel better. I certainly do.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got to meet people. You got to do both. Like the polarity of life. Almost dropped the F-bomb there. I can. It's my podcast. Fucking polarity. I don't know why. I was like, shouldn't swear in front of Canada.
He doesn't know I'm from New York.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the way it is. We have to meet people where they're at. When you're in suffering, I'm sorry, you need to create a shift for that person, especially if you're in a clinical application. If you can't, you're not going to have that client very long.
It's true. That's exactly right.
I mean, you got to do both, right? I'm a fan of stem cell procedures. I'm a fan of peptides. I'm a fan of all the methylene blue, immediate cognitive function. It is a Band-Aid. So we also want to ask, why, dear body, are you giving me this information at this time? And what can I look at? I think that, like, what I'm hearing you say is, because these are ecosystem tools, we have a larger safety profile. Like, there's a system built in, and it's like, it's like, oh, there's bumper lanes on this bowling game right now, because it's a more of a complete structure that we're not tampering or manipulating with, but we're bringing it in. It really is like a true food, right? It's a food.
Yes, it's really a food if you think about it.
Yeah.
And and one of the thing about there are certain times when you just want to feel better. You want to feel, clear. You want to clear the brain fog today because I have to do something. Those kinds of things. And I recognize that. But here's the thing, is that minerals are the substrate of everything. And they're also they are required in, I think it's actually thousands of biosynthesis processes in the body.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't have minerals and you're using all these different supplements, you're getting less effect from them.
Yeah.
But if you're providing that full spectrum of minerals, which is the substrate, that foundational stuff that is needed to make the methylene blue work, or make the whatever it is work, you see, whatever you're going to be using, the caffeine, the whatever it is, you're going to have better effect from everything. So we had practitioners come to us. We didn't have a practitioner program, but we had so many practitioners come to us saying, no, you don't understand. If someone wants to work with me, the first thing they're going to do is take their minerals, because then everything else that practitioner does with them is more effective. And then people start going, hey, I have more energy. Hey, I feel you're doing a good job. And it makes them look good.
Yeah, I like to think about it as either, like, again, there's biological blueprint, there's a base camp in which we can of course we can get you somewhere by putting you in a hyperbaric chamber. But if I change your respiratory rate and I teach you how to diaphragmatic breathe, we might save $26,000. It's not that we don't want the chamber for longevity, but where are you at? What's your bank account look like? And where can we meet you where you're at? I think that in this, the conversation of minerals, where I really want to go, specifically with supplements, I listen to podcasters all the time, and I want to punch my head through the wall, because I'm like, another thing I need to buy. Here's another guest with another thing that's essential, and everybody's product is essential. I feel differently about some things. Minerals are in my course.
Yeah.
B minerals are in my course. They're in there.
Woo woo.
That's because it's not a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's an essential.
Yes.
And there's a benefit to incorporating sunshine, light, sleep hygiene protocol around your bedtime, that I think it's just such a big ROI.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone uses, Beam, if they incorporate that in, and we got two avatars, right? So we got the guy who's running the race. They do the shot of electrolytes. They're like, oh my God, my brain's on. What about for the person who is biologically different than that runner, and that they start to use the product and they don't, they don't connect using with the physiological benefit? What, from my experience, most things I take, I can't tell you, oh yeah, when I take this, I feel this. It's pretty nuanced, especially when I've had it in my program for a little while, right? Because we start to, the body starts to attune to the therapy. So how do you frame this for people?
Yeah. Well, what I say is these are ecosystem tools, and ecosystems like small, incremental, full spectrum tools that create and support balance.
Yeah.
So what I always tell people is this is a 2-month supply for one person. I say take them for 2 months and then stop. You see, and then when they stop, about a week, 7 days in, they're like, oh, it was the minerals.
Yeah.
That's almost, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the beauty of an ecosystem tool. It's not like, the cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like you start drinking a little more water every day and you start going, wow, I actually feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee or the ozone enema, whatever pick your poison.
Exactly.
Pick your poison. It's, I like to have that conversation. And can we talk about, nobody ever talks about investment or price.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Because that's a big, especially when I was in my throes, I was so frugal.
Yeah.
I didn't really have money for guac on my Chipotle. I was like, God, I'd love that. I'd love a double guac. That was the dream.
I totally get it.
And so, let's talk, like, how do you strategize this incorporating? I'd love to hear your insight before I offer anything from my brain.
Well, what I say is, first of all, it costs about $1.35 a day to take our minerals. Okay. So it's not super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognize and totally respect that not everybody has available money to spend. Okay. But you don't have to take any zinc, and you don't have to take all those expensive salt-based electrolytes that you might be taking. Mm-hmm. If you want to have flavored water, put some Beam in it and squeeze a lemon, or put a little bit of juice in there, something like that. So that would be much better for you than all the maltodextrin and salt and crap.
Dark tart cherry is my favorite.
See? Okay. Well, the problem, so we should talk about salt-based electrolytes, but we can do that another
time. No. I mean, like, literally dark tart cherry.
The flavor.
Like organic dark tart cherry.
Juice.
It just...
Okay, now I'm going to go home and get...
Hits my nervous system. I do like a teaspoon before bed. Rocks my nervous. It just takes me right down. It's so good.
You're going to have to show me what that is, because
I'll show you.
I'm going to totally try it.
Game changer.
I love that. I love that. So... But the point is that there are so many things that you don't have to take. And so many people are taking lots of other supplements. They're doing, just losing the salt-based electrolytes and just using Beam instead is going to be so much better for your system. Yeah. And less expensive.
I really like the concept of a reallocation of funds. Mm-hmm. There's another book I have, like, I'm 50 pages in, where it's literally like the Health and Wealth Savings Academy for increasing, like, financial abundance and robust health.
Oh, cool.
And I look at it's reallocation of funds.
Yeah.
But, when I talk about, like, there's an app called Suppco, SUPPCO. Mm-hmm. It's a third party, not affiliated with any company. And they give ratings from 0 to 10 on supplement companies.
Oh, I have to go see if we're on there.
You got to look. And you can scan things in your cupboard, and some things it's like not GMP processing. Right. It's like not in a good facility. Mm-hmm. It's got some real big hits against it, and it'll be like a 2. And you're like, oh God, I don't want to take that. Yeah. It's like across the board. It's got a really low rating. Yeah. So the other thing I like to do is
cool.
It's so fun. It's so fun. The other thing I like to do for people is like, when I was running a practice, we would say, okay, what are you taking? And they would, I'd have them put it in a circle, like tape out a circle on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, you can move it to the green circle if you can tell me what it's doing for you. And most people were like, well, I'm taking this. I'm like, what's it do? Why do you need it? I don't know. Well, my doctor or someone, and it was never rooted in wasn't related to labs, no blood work, usually like internet woo-woo. And I love the woo-woo, but the internet's problematic. And so we'd get like 3 bottles in the thing. And I'm like, dude, let's add up those. Just 1 bottle. Maybe like, let's really shock the shit out of you. Let's multiply it by like a 2-month reorder. They're like, oh my God, that's $3,000. I'm like, we're like doing great today. That's just the supplement covered exercise.
Oh, I love that. That is so good.
That or the other really transformational thing was like, go in and do the same thing. Let's do your dry covered clean out. And let's start to get real. What food goes bad? It's all meant to be in boxes for 3 years. So I'm not going to allow any of that into your new, we're going to look at vegetables, we're going to look at protein that will go bad.
Right, exactly.
And it's really profound. I want to know why, if I have an elite diet, if I'm eating like, the elite longevity expert that I am, why can't I get this from my food?
Yeah. Well, first of all, humic and fulvic only come from decomposed food. Remember that? So what you will get minerals from the foods you eat, but here's the problem. So recently, there's a study. It was done in 2004, and scientists looked at food grown in 1950 and food grown in 1999. They found significant declines in vitamin, mineral, and protein content. This is well documented. Okay, so you cannot, I don't care how well you eat, how organic, or even if you grow in your backyard garden, you cannot get enough minerals, the full spectrum and quantities of minerals that you need from the foods you eat anymore. It's not possible. And plus, we're all drinking filtered water, and most people are drinking filtered water that has no minerals in it. Yeah. So the uptick in mineral deficiency and the uptick in multiple chronic symptoms that are correlated to just literally, it's like this, the body is like a city operating in a constant brownout. Can't generate enough energy. Yeah. So it has to pick and choose. It says, well, I can't really get rid of that inflammation. We'll just, we'll limp along. It keeps the light.
Well, we're gonna reallocate. Yeah. We're going to reallocate from your bones, from your muscle tissue. That's it. Exactly. Body's just like hyper intelligent. Exactly. And it's not going to use the junk car parts. It's going to use the good ones. Exactly. Yeah. And go on. How do you eat to complement like your B minerals? Well,
I don't know if I eat to complement my B minerals. I would say it's the opposite. I take my B minerals to complement what I eat. And because I know that B minerals is supporting the nutrient uptake of anything I eat. Now, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but as an example, several years ago when I still did drink once in a while, if I literally had 3 sips of wine, I would feel it because it has so much fulvic in my system and my cells are so permeable from the humic that the uptake was really, really fast of that alcohol. Yeah. So that's what can happen. So even if you eat really, really well, you want to have the flavonoids in your system. And because we're being bombarded with, all these pollutants everywhere in the air and the water and everywhere, you can't get away from glyphosate as an example. Yeah. You want to have Mother Nature's janitor in your system, just continually clearing, removing.
Yeah. And is really and truly like 1 serving is good for each. That's it.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That's great. No, easy to incorporate.
Yeah. It's so easy. I mean, so I, like you, I spent a lot of time in the supplement aisles at health food stores. Yeah. As I was I wanted to be more of a geek. I wanted to learn to talk about minerals in a way that people could understand. So I would ask people, they're looking at their calcium and or their magnesium or whatever, and they'd be like, yeah, my mother told me I need zinc, and my friend told me I should take magnesium, and my doctor told me I need calcium, and but what type? And I'd ask them, well, do you have to take it at a certain time of day? Do you have to eat it with food or without food? And they're like so confused, so overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't work. That's the sad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild. Can we also just go back? We've mentioned glyphosate a couple times. I've done some episodes on glyphosate. We mention it. We mention it's a toxicant that was introduced around the 1970s. Since its introduction, it's up 15,000%. Man, per person, I used to know this. It's like 1.34 kilograms per person in the U.S. of glyphosate. I mean, there's a lot. What does glyphosate pose as a threat to the human terrain?
The first thing that glyphosate does, and it's kind of interesting because, we've had this huge rise in gluten-free stuff, okay? Because people are having all these gut problems.
That's right.
And guess what? Glyphosate attacks the same set of enzymes in your gut that create gluten intolerance and celiacs. And they call it the first line of defense. It's a set of enzymes called the CP450 enzymes. And what they do is they support what are called tight junctions. And tight junctions are the lining of your gut is really cells pushing up against each other. And there's a particular set of enzymes that support that and keep these tight junctions going.
Yeah.
And when these enzymes break down, you get this is why we call it leaky gut, because you get openings which food particles can enter and toxicants, all sorts of stuff can get inside that you don't want. And then it creates histamine responses, all sorts of problems, okay? And inflammation in the gut. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is that it mimics glycine, and glycine is the most prevalent amino acid in your body. So what your body thinks is that this glyphosate is glycine, and it absorbs it. And then it creates incredible oxidative stress and inflammation in the body.
Yeah.
The third thing that does is it interrupts the biosynthesis process of melatonin. So it totally affects sleep.
Man.
Okay. And then ultimately affects serotonin production. And it's actually really, really bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and over time, it's also correlated with Parkinson's, with renal failure, and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
So you can't get away from it now, but you definitely want to get it out. And guess what? Humic, because this is what I want people to understand, is like, ever since the beginning of time, there's always been concentrations of substances that were toxic to cellular systems. So nature had to develop tools to clear them. And that's what humic represents.
Yeah.
Nature's way of continually removing toxins from the body.
Yeah.
And what the coolest thing is that the humic molecule actually gathers or binds to glyphosate, and then it builds a film around it so that it's completely sequestered away from the body. Just really, it's called adsorbs. So rather than absorb, it's adsorb. It keeps it from absorbing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I always think about how, maybe there's a geologist out there that's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I think one of the highest natural inputs of mercury, which is neurotoxic, into the world is a volcano. And then in the ash of a volcano, the zeolite is like a binder for that mercury. See, and it's like they're right next to each other.
Isn't it a perfect example of what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Nature has been solving ecosystem problems for millennia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does take the complexity out of it when we think about it that way.
Yeah.
When we think about it that way.
Yeah.
What are some of the if you're talking with people, I like to root people, like I'll give an amazing fact, like I'm like, people will be like, well, why do I need lymphatic support? I'm like, well, you have 3 times as much lymphatic fluid as you do blood. They're like, what?
Huh?
I'm like, yeah.
Why did I never hear of this thing?
Oh, there's no pump to drive it?
Yeah.
You know, what do I do? So they just get excited in learning about the system. Are there any fun facts you love about minerals that just like kind of blow people's mind?
That's a good question. I guess I feel like the main thing about minerals is that they drive all of the electrical connections in your body. So without minerals, you would not be able to move, think, talk, anything.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you were lying in a bathtub and we threw in a radio or something, you wouldn't get electrocuted.
Yeah.
So this is why, you know, minerals as that foundation, as that substrate, as the most fundamental thing that you can put in your body, because they support all of the electrical activity, the neural, you know, the neurotransmitter, all of that. It's all driven at the most fundamental level by minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. So people, I'm sure, are going to listen to the podcast, and there are other companies that use humic and fulvics. Why would you recommend somebody to explore Beam?
Yeah.
Because we could go. You're right. We can get on Amazon, and you guys are on Amazon.
We are on Amazon.
We are.
Yeah. It's only our company. Nobody else sells.
Right. But why would people look to Beam?
Yeah. Well, so you can get humic in, like Shilajit is humic.
Yeah.
And you can get other products that are like Cellcore has a humic product. They use it for detox of glyphosate and other heavy metals and things like that. So, and I never say a single bad thing about any humic and fulvic product. The beautiful thing about this is that they're tools. So one thing about humic, so I am one of these people. I've had mold exposure. I've had autoimmune, and I've also, since COVID, if I drink our microboost as a shot, and I do that for 3 days in a row, boom, I will get hives. So my body goes into detox response extremely easily. And now one of the problems is because I'm still working on getting rid of the mold that I lived in a moldy house for several years. So that's just my challenge. But if I take it and I put it in this big cup of water, and I pour it in there and I drink it over this time while we're talking, I get no response. Now, if I have a powder in a pill, it's very hard to titrate. But if we have something we call the slow introduction method, so if you're somebody who you're sensitive, most people who know that they're very sensitive, you just start very small. I mean, with sometimes a quarter teaspoon in a glass of water over a period of time. But even more so, you can start and just take electrolytes. So you're just going to use the fulvic. And this we get into a whole other subject, which is about detox, but we won't go too deep. But the point with fulvic is you're giving your body all that full spectrum of minerals that's going to increase the energy output in your body, because it's delivering the minerals directly into the mitochondria to uptick all of the energy throughout your body.
Yeah.
And now when you start detoxing, by then maybe a week or 10 days or 2 weeks later, then you're going to start using the humic very slowly. And like an ecosystem, you're going to introduce it bit by bit, just slowly titrating up over time. And you're not going to have to experience any detox. Yeah. So that's the beauty of Beam, is that it's liquid. You don't have to add a pill. It tastes like water. So lots of other liquid minerals have flavor. They've added flavors. I don't understand why, but they did. And you have these two tools, so that allows people who are more sensitive to work with them.
Yeah, step up and step down.
Yeah, and even if, like, let's say you ate something, you went to a restaurant or something and you ate something and you're feeling like food poisoning. You go home and you take some microboost. Yeah. Get it out.
I got rocked 2 weeks ago with food poisoning.
You should have used that, yeah.
I mean, I have been. It rocked me. It's so rare. What I really like to do is, if I'm going to eat out,
Yeah.
anytime, I like to pregame
That's the way to go.
like 10 or 15 minutes. And I like to have that around, like if I time, and I know this probably people are like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. The like 10 or 15 minutes before I'm going to eat. So it's like around gallbladder, liver, around the bile secretion. So as I'm releasing toxins in that bile, my binder's kind of ready to go. And I'm coating that small bowel for any possible, things that would leak through the small bowel. And that's just like, I've gotten to the point where I'll eat out, but if I'm at an event or a show or out of town, I'll go eat somewhere. But really, I'm eating in like 3 restaurants that I know.
I know, that's the thing.
I'm like down to 3 or 4 places
Same
that I was
here.
like, it's just not worth it because I cook so good.
Same here.
I cook so good and I love food. So it's really interesting how it's become my priority has been feeling good. As opposed to like, spending a lot of money on a meal that might make me sick.
Exactly.
It's just not worth it.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Functionality is like number one.
Yeah. I think as we get older, it's like, really want to feel good.
Me too. I want to be able to like follow my purpose. I want whatever wind is filling my sail. I don't want to be haltered by like all these physical things. I just want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been saying this a lot. You got 99 problems till you got a problem with your health. And then nothing else is. That's
right.
Nothing else is really there.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I'm excited about this for families.
Yeah.
I think about like, I love my family and, I have members that are on board a lot and I have members that just like, that's cute. All that stuff you do with that wellness. But I could see them. I'm like, can I just talk about glyphosate and we could just talk about the school lunches that the kids are getting? And are you opposed to giving them like, what's the dose for like a kid? Like a teaspoon? So are you up for that? Like I could see people being on board. Like if we do one thing.
Yeah. The thing that I see, in that setting is you really kind of have to talk to whatever challenges they're experiencing. I mean, parents know their kids don't eat as well as they want them to.
Yeah.
So what if you could provide this substrate that they're not getting from the food they eat, and it would make them more successful in school, maybe make them less, if they're hyperactive or they have ADHD or they, are just spacing out a lot, if it could just really help them. Or lots of kids are coming off the soccer fields with cramping. Now, when I was a kid, nobody got cramping because we used to drink from the hose. We got a lot of minerals from our water. Now they're all drinking those plastic water bottles or filling their water bottle from their filter, and they have no minerals. So mineral deficiency, I mean, they say 97% of Americans have only 40% of the minerals in their body that they need. So, and that's adults. So
that's big.
That's big.
That's big.
And think about all the cognitive, a child's body's developing. So the requirement for minerals, they do have very high mitochondrial function, but still they have much higher requirements because they're developing tissues, they're growing, they're learning so much. So if you can give them this foundational thing and it's like water, most kids will have no problem taking it.
Amazing.
Whereas a lot of kids don't want to take pills.
Amazing. We blew through an hour.
Oh, we did?
I was like 30 minutes. I was like, oh my God, no way. we're going to do more. We're going to do more. And we had said before we started that we're probably going to do a song.
Yes.
We got to write something. There's a mineral song out there. Oh my goodness. There's just so.
Oh, I can't.
I need the essentials. What are the points that we want in the song that are going to be really good for? And I have 2 people in mind that are like amazing on the piano. So we're going to build a team. Build a mineral song.
Okay, let's do it. I really want to do it.
We'll do it. I'm doing it. This will be easy. Yeah. So many fun ways we can go with that. Before we close, we're going to do a code for the audience. They'll have they're going to be able to use Beautifully Broken. You'll get some amazing discounts.
It's 20%.
Oh, wow. 20%.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing. So we'll do that. And before we close out, I want to ask you a couple more questions. Beautifully Broken podcast. These times when we fall down in life, they can be the catalyst for change. What does it mean to you to be beautifully broken?
Mm-hmm. I guess I've been on a version of that all my life, of breaking myself open and growing. So I really don't think you can grow and learn unless you're willing to be broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if we bumped into each other in the street, we didn't know who each other were. What would you tell me you do? Hi, I spend my time on the planet. What do I do?
Uh, I help people learn about minerals.
Yeah.
I'm a mineral geek.
Yeah.
Help people learn about minerals and help them. Come on, I don't know.
I love it. I love it. You
Wow.
have a fly buzzing
I have a
for an
fly buzzing. See, the whole universe just went crazy just then.
You know why? Because they want you to have that.
They want me to it's like literally, would you get it together?
They want you to have the answer locked in for the next podcast.
What do you think I should tell them?
Yeah, I would say I spend my time in deep learning and understanding of minerals, and I educate and empower and inspire people like you to get the most out of your body through using humic and fulvics.
Okay, so you're going to have to send that to me.
We can record it. We'll get it from the... Do you guys believe I pulled that right out? Anyways,
I do.
I want to give you one more. If you had a little magic wand, because we're in such a unique time in the world right now with just like the polarization, the separation, just made up another word.
I love it.
That's we all know what I meant.
Sure.
What message would you give if you could tune in everybody's iPhone to your channel? What would you say to people right now?
I would say we are all an ecosystem, and our bodies are ecosystems. We're part of relationship ecosystems and family ecosystems and community ecosystems and city and state and country and world and earth and galaxy universe. So if you think that you have no power, just tune into your ecosystem because it's connected to everything.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for being with us on the Beautifully Broken podcast. We're going to close it down and we're going to do more. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much.
So good. All right, team. Love ya. Bye.